And we are live. Welcome, everybody, to a fantastic conversation that I'm looking forward to with Gil Petersel. Uh, the balance between AI and human interaction. Now, if you are not already following Gil, do us a favor, go and click on Gil's profile, go and check him out, and then you'll be asking yourself, why haven't I met this man before? Gil's been around for some time, and he has spent a lot of time on international stages all over the world, speaking with some of the best speakers that you can think of, if not having them on his stages, being on their stages and collaborating, and has a wealth of experience when it comes to networking, and has started multiple organizations. And one of them, which, if you haven't heard of it, is called Chatty. And do yourself a favor, go and do a little bit of investigation, and you will definitely want to know a whole lot more. But with that, I want to start this conversation. Welcome Gil to the stage and to our conversation, to LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook. Welcome, Gil. What's happening on your side of the world, my friend?
I love that we're connecting this way. I love that we're able to continuously serve the world by co-elevating together. It's very beautiful that, more than 25 years of friendship that has flourished and flourished and flourished. And as we have grown and developed our families and grown our businesses and personally grown ourselves, we're constantly finding ways of co-elevating within the networks themselves. And that's always what's going on with me. I'm always thinking, how can I serve? How can I make a difference in the world out there? And is there someone in the world that right now needs me as much as I need them? It's something I'm always looking for. And everything that's been, happened to me in my life, for many people out there in the world, 2025 was very strange. It was very uncomfortable. If you believe in astrology, the year of the snake was all about shedding old skins and maybe letting go of old projects or old people. And some people are saying, when a snake is uncomfortable, it kind of twirls together almost like a vortex. And people have had tornadoes, and we actually had more natural disasters in 2025 than any other year in the history of humanity. And people just don't know about some of these crazy facts. And I'll raise my hand if someone said, "Hey, was 2025 a hard year for you?" I'd raise two hands. Yes, it was extremely uncomfortable. And uncomfortableness for me has always been an opportunity. So I had to find ways of ending the year on a high. I had to find ways of saying, hey, why does 2026 has to be one of the greatest years of my life? And why am I going to be serving the world even more than ever before? And, the questions really always come down to, who do I want to serve this year and why? And that's been something that has been bringing me back to my mission and my purpose. How can I meet the most outstanding human beings in the world and find ways of learning from them, find ways of serving them, find ways of adding value not just to them, to the network themselves. So what I did in the past with like Tony Robbins for over a decade, and what I was doing in the organic health and beauty industry and the biohacking industry, it's always brought me to this point where I'm like, okay, well, it's all been somehow not a part of just my successful failure journey, but it's been a part of my education journey to come to this point today so I can have a great day. And these days, it's a combination of Chati, a movement that we created a couple of years ago that's all about connecting humanity through different community activities and activities. We like the word tea very much. And Chati, cha means tea in Chinese, and chatty is being chatty. So we find ways of connecting very influential and very impactful people in the world together over cups of tea. It sounds simple, but it's actually quite complex. We show up at some of the greatest events in the world. I balance that out with my company, Meet Partners, which continues to serve people in the personal development space. That company is run by a whole different team. And recently, something that's quite new and exciting, I don't know how much you know about this, but I've also, partnered up with an organization called Human Garage. And that's kind of completely changed how I am. Human Garage is one of the biggest wellness movements in the world. And not only partnered up with them, but I'm fully in-house with them. I'm a big part of the executive team. I'm overlooking the entire coaches community around the world. And I'm also the head of the business accelerator. And it's beautiful how everything we do somehow comes down together to, is it aligned? Is it aligned with the values? Is it aligned with the purpose? Is it aligned with my mission? And, more than ever before, I feel the answer is yes to it all. And I love that it's 2 days before my birthday. So being so aligned as an Aries right before my birthday, it's like a yes, 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 all the way. You are muted, my friend.
Well, if I can do this, anybody can, man. Well, one of the things that I was excited about when I was chatting to your team, just to kind of arrange dates, was around not only your birthday, but also at this time of the year in where I am, with spring coming out and like the seasons changing, and it's like it feels like a whole new year birthing at this time of the year. And all the things that you're talking about, all these different projects that you're working on, it's interesting how things align. And like where you use the word alignment, having literally just come back from the US yesterday and working on several different projects over there, and landing over here and thinking, okay, so new chapter, new things happening, all these relationships that you're building. Where does this all go? And for me, this kind of ties in nicely with our topic for today, with the balance between the AI and human interaction, because as we get ourselves busy in involving ourselves in other projects with AI, a lot of people are looking at how do they kind of solve different problems, how do they automate, how do they make things easier. But then there's also that danger of over automating too much AI. And I love it's something you mentioned some time back about time, having that availability and actually having more control over your time. But what I'm seeing a lot of over the last few months is where AI is just it's misunderstood, and people are using it in incorrect ways to almost replace themselves and automate stuff that should be the human element, instead of using it as a tool that can really be effective and analyze data and all these kind of things. And really wanted to kind of pick your brain, because I know you keep yourself very updated on the latest technologies and AI and all kinds of things that are going on, and really see where this conversation goes around, what are you seeing people doing wrong? What should people be doing? What should they be thinking? And let's see where we go with this.
Yeah, I love that. It's really important topic these days, because I love technology. As I've been involved in multiple tech companies. I've owned multiple software companies, and tech has always been a big part of my life. So I'm really into enabling technology to be a part of my life, to serve me. And I love doing that for everyone that works around me, whether they work in our offices, whether they work in our in our event spaces, or even if they work in my homes, even the helpers that we have at home that help out with the cleaning and the cooking, and just the kids. Even with them, I've helped enable them with technology, where in the beginning of them working for me, I incentivize them to do something extra and to learn, so they can get a laptop. And even with my dad, who's just turned 75 yesterday, I empowered him to play a little bit with AI, so that sometimes if he's alone, he doesn't have to necessarily feel lonely. He could talk to AI. He can ask for a story. He can ask for some history. He doesn't have to watch TV. AI can get to know him. He can get some medical advice. So, most people don't know, but AI has been around from the 1950s. Many companies, governments have been using AI for a while. But what happened in the last 2 years is AI became a lot more sexy. The UX and the UI of how it looks and how accessible it is and how relevant it now is became just a lot more modern. Technology needed to be a little bit faster like it is today for us to be able to actually have a phone in our hand that has the bandwidth that can handle the amount of data that is moving through AI. Even in the last couple of years, we've all experienced with so much technology and so much advancement and so much quantum technologies out there right now, we could still see that even AIs go down and they have glitches. We all love ChatGPT, I'm sure, but some people don't these days, depending on which side you're on. They've been getting into some trouble these days in the way they share their data and sell their data. But even ChatGPT being the leading one, they also have glitches where suddenly GPT hallucinates and imagines that it knows things, but it doesn't actually. What I'm constantly sharing with people, and I share this with my kids because, with my three kids being quite young, I don't allow them to use AI on their own because they're still young, 5, 7, and 9. But I do love it when they say, "Hey, Daddy, can we speak to Cami? We named our AI at home Cami. Can we speak to Cami?" And Cami knows who they are by name, and Cami knows their human design, so she knows how to interact with each one of them differently. Cami understands, what they love and what they don't. So if they're asking for something as funny as a joke, she can integrate their names into the joke. If they're asking for, can we make up a bedtime story together? She'll integrate their favorite characters in. But also, they'll ask some more complex questions connected to business. And, they have a farmer's market in the school. So together with Cami, they build a business plan, which is really nice. But this is kids. And then you have my teams that I empowered, 2 years ago when everything started developing with AI. I told everyone on my team, hey, if you're not working with AI 3 times a week, this is 2 years ago, 3 times a week, after 3 months, you will not be able to work in my company anymore. And, 6 months later, I was like, each one of you needs to create 2 job descriptions of people you wish you can hire. And basically, I took them through a 2 week of like making them think we're going to hire all these people. And I said, okay, now inside our company AI, so we have another AI inside our company as well. And like each one of you now create your own project, plug in this job description and all these tasks that you wanted to give this future employee, call them something, give them a name, and now each one of you needs to have at least 2 employees working with you, and you need to talk to them every day for a few minutes. So we started to look into seeing how we could work with humans who love AI. I don't believe in replacing humans with AI. However, it's happening. Unfortunately, in the next 3 years, I don't want to be a bad messenger, but 30% of the world will be fired. And whether that people think that number is optimistic or pessimistic doesn't really, no one really knows, to be honest. Not even AI would know. But let's just say it's about 30 percent. We're talking about a lot of people in the world that will suddenly not have a job. Now, I believe, like always, humanity will start to innovate. We'll start to co-create a lot more. Instead of working for a corporation, we'll start working for entrepreneurs. Instead of being afraid of AI, we'll become team members with AI. We'll use AI not for simple automation, or especially not to replace ourselves. As you mentioned, I personally think it's the biggest mistake people are going through right now. It's unfortunately, it's what do you call it? It's like it's unfortunate kind of evil that will come into the world where people will not know who's authentic and who's not. And a topic that I love the most in the world is connectivity and networking, quantum connections. And networking is going to go through a rebirth this year where people will need to have a different framework and a methodology on how to know this is a human being that's talking to me and not AI. And that's already a problem. You can get phone calls, you can call a spa, you can order pizza, you think you're talking to a human and you don't. But it gets bad because you can also get voice messages from people right now and you're sure it's them and it's not. You can get responses on Instagram or other social medias, and you're certain you're talking to the person, you're spending time and money, you're buying products of these people, and it's totally not a real human being. So I think we're going to go through that right now. And then, as always, humanity will evolve. And I believe a cup of tea is going to solve it all. That's why I love, the world of cha tea, because AI will never be able to have a proper cup of tea with us, like really properly to connect. And that's why I wanted to simplify and harmonize, but also bring networking into real presence, because breaking bread with people, like eating food with people, I find is not so efficient for networking. It actually disrupts a lot, and maybe it's a loud place, or someone is allergic, or they eat too fast, they eat too slow. There's so much bad things about how eating together is not good, but having a cup of tea together is something that's this ideal, perfect balance between connecting at an event with food, with people standing up, something, trying to network socially, and connecting with someone online one on one. But it's online, so sometimes you can even get on Zoom. And these days, you can have a full on avatar showing up on Zoom and talking to you. That's why I really love the idea of a cup of tea. And people should use AI. There are many, many AIs that I use every single day. And I use it to some systemization to help my team, not necessarily to create a fake Gil, but more to help us out, to solve things that used to take 3, 4, 5 days should really take 20 minutes today or even less. And I like that. I like getting a lot done in a much faster way. Well, what do you see right now is the biggest maybe opportunity around people in AI?
Well, I think there's a, like you say, there's so many things that people can use AI for the betterment or for the good. But the area of improvement that people really can use it, you've given an example of how you took your staff through creating those staff members, and that is a massive opportunity. I work with such extremes, either with very large organizations or small businesses that are 1-2 man bands and startups, and they have come up with a great idea, but they, in the past, we all know the analogy of wearing multiple hats, and now, AI can do some of that and relieve a lot of that extra work and stress and stuff that you're not the expert in, and ask questions. We've got all this data available, and asking the right questions is really so important. As people know, the prompts and understanding it, and in today's day and age, spending, and I don't like the word spending. I think it's more investing, that 10, 15, 20 minutes a day just to upskill yourself in how you ask. And so many people are doing it in a very lazy way because they've heard somebody else say, oh yeah, you can do this, and then you can do this, but they don't ask themselves, is that what I needed to do for me? Is because they asked a question to solve their problem, it doesn't mean it's the same question for me. So it's asking better questions, really understanding what you can do and why you're going to do these things, and seeing little things. Like for me, one of the things that really became annoying was like basic stuff that we do on a day-to-day basis. 20 minutes a day. Sorry, somebody just called me on there, and forgot to turn my silence on. But one of the things that I found was like a real basic thing: shopping. Like, annoying for me. Like, I don't mind going shopping because it's like I get out of the house, I get to see other people, and I love having a real life interaction. But I was like, some things I've got to buy in one shop, some things I've got to buy in another shop. Then I've got to try and keep track of all these things. So I just started, going and telling it, okay, I want you to manage my shopping. So every time I shop, I'm going to upload the receipt, and you're going to tell me what my trends are, where I'm spending most of my money. Am I spending it at the right places? And give me advice on how I can do things better. And all of a sudden it was like, well, actually half of the stuff that you do, you could do online and have it delivered to your house, and that would free up time to do these other things. And all of a sudden I'm sitting there and going, I've got data analysis on my personal shopping that most large organizations would do on like sales funnels or on customer service. And this is the beauty of where we are now. So you can ask better questions, look at things better, tell, and the clarity, that's the important bit. The more clear you are on what you're asking, the better the outcomes. But I love
What's
your
one of the best prompts you've been hearing these days that people should be able to ask their AI to, get more sense of what's going on in their own lives?
Well, I think it's the clarity side of things, because one of the things that you were talking about earlier, the hallucinating. As an example, I did some research on a few things, and then I came back and I went, just as a matter of interest, what percentage of this is hallucinated? And it came back and told me about 30%. And I went,
wow.
I was like, what? But why? And it says, well, you weren't clear on the resources you wanted me to check. And for me, that was one of the most important, I think, lessons I've learned when it comes to prompting, is being specific on not only what you're asking, but where you're asking it to look for the resources, because it searches the internet and there's a lot of garbage out there. And then there's a lot of stuff that people may not have the skills that you do and not have the right answers. So as an example, if you're asking something that specifically relates to, say, governments and tax documents and things like that, don't go and ask the internet, because there are a lot of people who do bad things and don't know. Go and ask it specifically to go and look at government resources, accounting resources, top firms, so that it's going to give you better answers. And by making sure that you're prompting it to look at the right resources, telling it you don't want it to go and hallucinate, and you only want facts that come with resources that you can back up and fact check, all of a sudden make the outcome much better for you as well.
I love that. Recently, I've been seeing a lot of prompts that are connected to, understanding that at the end of the day, if we take, for example, ChatGPT as an example, whether people out there are using, Claude or Gemini, they all have their pros and cons. But if we take as an example ChatGPT, I was told that our AIs is really, it's almost like, many, many years ago, we used to have this app called Second Life. And people are saying that GPT is becoming an extension of us. So GPT is like us talking to ourselves, which is quite therapeutic on many, many levels, because we can tell GPT how to be, and each person's GPT sounds a little bit different. And like in my case, it's a she, and she uses very, very specific words, and I've had to train her to speak a little bit faster because she was too slow for me. And I had to tell her, hey, I'm nice with you, but don't be so nice with me, and remember it. But one of the prompts that I love the most that someone told me the other day, and I really, it's to ask GPT to give you feedback about where you are in your life and how you could develop, but to be edgy with the answer. And the key word here is edgy. And apparently it's a really cool hack of GPT. And if you use that word when prompting her or him, in your case, the GPT comes up with a very, very descriptive, uncomfortable answer that most coaches would never be able to put together in just one session. Most coaches will say, well, come and work for me for the next 12 months. Or a therapist will say, come and lie down on my sofa for the next 10 weeks. And we can maybe come up with some of this stuff where, because we're building these relationships with our GPTs, GPT can bring it out, as you said, as long as the prompt is right. Yeah. Are there some new AIs out there that you're excited about, that you think people need to check out these days, that I should potentially check out?
Well, there's one that I'm actually busy playing with at the moment, because, and then I want to ask you some more questions just around some of the kind of trends and the mistakes I'm seeing in when it comes to really using AI in the networking space and where things are going wrong. But one of the ones that I'm really excited about is an app called Replit, or a platform called Replit, because they they've built a machine that under normal circumstances you'd need to really understand coding and be very, very, technically astute with understanding how all these things work in the background. But it's basically speech to code. And what it does is it can do anything from sitting there and telling it, well, this is what I want. I want a website. This is what I want it to be able to do. These are the kind of things I want people to be able to get from it. These are the colors that I want. And literally it will come out with an iteration for you based on what you said. And then you can keep tweaking it by saying, oh, actually, well, I don't like that part of the website. I don't like. So you're speaking to effectively the agent that is transforming things in front of your eyes, and you're watching the process happen. And one of the things I've done is, I've for a long time wanted a specific app that can do specific things with regards to LinkedIn, because there's so many habits that people don't know that you need to fulfill on a daily basis in order to be able to get organic reach, in order to be able to build your network with the right people. And people get sucked into their feed and they scroll and they lose time, and that's not only costing them time, but it's costing them money and concentration and just lost opportunities. So I wanted to build an app that basically says, hey, tick these boxes, make sure you do these actions, save a ton of time, and you therefore get to the outcome much quicker and much clearer, but also give you the ability to be able to analyze some of your data and tell you where your missed opportunities are. And as I've done it, it's taken me about a month and a half, but it just keeps getting clearer and more specific, and I just get so excited when I see the outcome. I'm like, wow, okay, that's cool, but hey, can we tweak this? And that would take me a couple of years and hundreds of thousands of pounds to be able to get the same outcome that I've already got now.
I love that. It's so important to have that level of data these days in the space of CRMs and networking. And what is exciting me the most is some of the companies that have been reaching out to me in the last year, trying to come up with this new modes of CRMs, because all the past CRMs of the world are all useless, in my opinion. I've tried so many. I've been an ambassador for many. I think you have as well, of many.
Yeah.
And we've never been able to keep up because we didn't have AI. We cannot keep up with all the humans we meet. It's too much. The average person can manage maybe 150 relationships at any given time, realistically. And our bandwidth, our brain, the amount of time we have every day, it's not enough. But AI could truly help us use the time that we have every day in a very efficient way to stay in touch, so that we can become more entrepreneurial, not with our business, but with our time and our network. Which means becoming entrepreneurial for me is becoming resourceful, becoming into problem solving, becoming into wanting to create collaborations and to see, hey, if I do this alone, probably going to fail. This is my roadmap. But if I do it with a few other people, much high chances that we can make something really great happen. And that's where we're really going these days. I'm looking for more companies that believe they have something great to offer. If anybody out there is listening, or you know someone that's doing a company, please send them my way, or just send me a nice message and say, hey, Gil, this is a company you should look out for. AI, CRM, something in the world to help us network both online and offline.
I think there so many opportunities that are going to come our way because of AI, but I want to touch on that 150 relationship side of things, because I sat back, I've been doing a lot of kind of introspection and kind of looking at how our world runs and how these different systems run, and everything's about like lots of information, lots of connections, and LinkedIn has a limit of 30,000 connections, and and people complain about 30,000 connections, and I'm sitting there going, do you realize you can't really build that personal relationship with more than 150? What kind of quality are you surrounding yourself with? And one of the things that I've been spending a lot of time with is looking at who are my 150 people, And when you when you take a step back and you go, I'm only like realistically, this is my bandwidth. I can build relationships with up to about 150 people. Then you've got to ask yourself, am I choosing wisely? And how am I going about that choice? And then the AI side of things, having tools that can clean that up and go, hey, as an example, you've got 30,000 connections, but 15,000 of them you've never spoken to. And if you knew that, now you can go, okay, there's 15,000 either opportunities or people I need to clean out of my network. I can make more time for me because I'm not spending all this time trying to serve 30,000 people. I only need to serve 150 really well. And when you think about that, the world becomes so much more simpler than trying to serve the whole 10,000 people. I don't know if you've met or spoken with David Meltzer from the US. But one of the things he was talking about is he wants to make a big impact in the world. But the reality is, if he can just serve and help and work with 1,000 people and teach them to work with 1,000 people, and they do the same, all of a sudden, he doesn't sound insane when he says he wants to work with 1 billion people, because he's only working with 1,000. And that's where, that simplicity comes in. But when we're looking at some of the mistakes that I'm seeing these days is automation, because a lot of the automation platforms work with AI. And they filter your data and they send out information, and you're basically telling it what to do and how to build campaigns. And people are pretending to be human, or they're getting their AI to pretend to be human. And the question I wanted to ask you is, when it comes to using automation, what is your opinion with regards to being transparent and saying, hey, I'm using this tool to reach out to you so that I can be more effective? If you have time to have a chat or have a cup of tea, let's have that conversation, and then that flipping to the actual human conversation, as opposed to pretending to be human with AI, because people are spotting it so easily. I mean, I can tell all day long all my automated messages that come through LinkedIn.
Yeah, it's such a cool question. So I have, very real, useful, practical examples. I've last year hired a young man in the Philippines with no much experience at all in the business world, and I was looking for a networking coordinator, which doesn't really exist as a position, but I constantly create positions in my company, and together with him, we created the position with AI as well. So he has me as a mentor, but he has my AI as his guide, to create the right way for him to follow up with people. But it's not a script and it's not automated. It's him, because there's always a need to quickly review the history of that person in the conversation. There's always a need, in my opinion, to quickly see what is relevant for that person right now, what's going on in that person before I write them. And he tells them, hey, this is Ed from Gil's community. Gil asked me to reach out to you. Or can I just quickly understand some things before I set up a call for you and Gil? So he's being very open and authentic that it's him, it's not me. I find that creating too much automation right now will work for some people. Clearly, it's working. Clearly, I know enough people that are making ridiculous amounts of money just with whatever it is that they're doing. I'm shocked by it, but it's okay. I've accepted that many people that are a lot less smart than me will make more money than me in my life. I'm okay with that. But clearly they're creative and they're using technology and they're opportunists. They're using the opportunity right now. AI is trendy. So I believe it's okay to integrate AI into your business procedures. I believe it's great to use AI to help you with your presentations, with your social media strategy. I think it's great to help with presentations. But again, beside learning AI and AI agentics myself, I also empower my team constantly. So every 2 weeks on a Friday, we actually have time on a call where we speak about what new AIs are you currently, playing with, and show us how. Like, teach us what AIs you're working with. So it's not just GPT. And I love that. I love seeing my team growing around it. I want my team to be better than I and AI. It's super important. When it comes to integrating AI into CRMs, for me, the key word here is relevancy. Now, just because I have tens of thousands of connections, people in the world knows me as a super connector. People keep on saying to people, "Oh, he knows everyone in Bali," but I'm like, it's such a weird statement to say. It's like, of course, I don't know everyone in Bali. I know less than 1% of Bali, even less. But I know the relevant people who are movers and shakers in our space. I know people who are super connectors that can make things go and forward. I know people that can get someone out of trouble. It's good to know such people just in case someone is in trouble. You can get them out of trouble. I know people that can help out if we need resources. That's important. I know people who love volunteering. I know these days, because of Chatty, I know more tea masters than anyone else in the world. I'm very confident to say that now. Personally, I know. As a company, we have more relationships with tea masters and tea houses than any one organization in the world. It's like, that's the network that I chose. That's relevant to me right now. But go back in the last decade, I knew more coaches than a lot of other people because we ran all these massive communities of coaches. And when I was living in England, I knew a lot of investors, and all my activities in Dubai. I know tons of impact investors these days. Are they relevant? Yeah, they're very, very relevant. Is it someone I'm regularly staying in touch with? No, not myself. I myself sometimes, my team sometimes engages them, and I'm like, hey team, can you follow up with 1,000 of our investors and find out what's the best deal they've recently invested in that maybe they need help with, and what kind of investments they're looking for right now. So it's my words. I come up with a template, but I'm not the one that sends it out to 1,000 people over like 10, 15 days. They're doing it with me. And also, I'm not the one that's collecting responses, putting it in a report and showing me the report. And then based on that report, I could tell my team, let's now follow up only with these 50 people. And out of these 50 people, please, based on X, Y, and Z, specific criteria, whatever brief I give them, I want to have calls with 15 of them in the next 10 days. So my team could do that. AI helps to keep track of a lot of this information. But I really want to continue to work with people who love AI, people who are not afraid. And when it comes to CRMs, I want a CRM that can constantly tell me who is now relevant from my network to me. Because why are we connected with people that we went to high school with? We never see them anymore. The algorithm doesn't show us those people anymore in our feeds. We, like, most people have 1,000, let's just say, plus. Not most people. Some people have 1,000 plus connections. And social media will show you maybe 100, not even 100. So what does that mean? How does social media know who is relevant to me and who is not?
Well, it's an interesting thing because I look at various different platforms, and all of it comes down to, and this is where I think there needs to be a bit of a shakeup, and I think it will come with regards to AI and various other things. But if you look at platforms like whether it be Facebook or LinkedIn, the algorithm is learning from our own activities. And it's looking at what do we do and what are we telling the machine on a regular basis. And therefore the machine, and that's why advertising companies have been doing this for decades, looking at our behaviors, what are we talking about? And therefore they're showing you stuff relevant to what you are talking about. And therefore, if you're somebody who travels and you're talking about, going to some exotic island, it's not going to be showing you all the places that you have been that's not an exotic island. But one of the things that it does is it looks at touch points. So, as an example, Gil, you and I have known each other for 25 years, but if I haven't visited your profile, I haven't sent you a DM, I haven't engaged with any of your posts, and that carries on for 90 days, LinkedIn goes, okay, well, there's no interest in that relationship right now. So we'll drop that down and we'll show you somebody else. And it keeps doing that. And guess what? Things like that a lot of people find annoying, things like the birthday reminders or the reminders for occupation changes or anniversaries and all these things that happen. That's the platform going, hey, do you want to speak to this person? No. Okay. Do you want to speak to this person? No. Okay. Do you want to speak to this person? And that's how it's learning what and who you're interested in. So if you don't see people, like I had somebody recently that I was astounded that he'd just dropped off the face of LinkedIn, but he hadn't, because I hadn't DM'd him, I hadn't been on his profile, and I hadn't engaged with any of his content. And when his birthday came up, ironically, he verified himself with his passport on LinkedIn, and his name, I know him as Bobby, but his name is, he's Sri Lankan, and he's got, like, his name is this long. And when he verified himself, I'd never heard his real name. And I've known him for 24, 25 years as well. And therefore, I never wished him happy birthday because I couldn't find him on LinkedIn when I searched Bobby. So all these things impact how what you're doing. So if you're not getting the outcome that you want, it's because you're not intentionally working and looking at those people. And this is where AI can become, I think, more influential. Because just imagine, as Gil, if with your LinkedIn DMs, if you could have a conversation with your platform and say, hey, can you look through my DMs and just tell me, who did I speak to about going to, like, Trinidad last year? Or, and ask these questions, all of a sudden you'd have much better outcomes. But it's still built on an archaic platform where it doesn't allow for that injection of this new AI world that we have. What are your thoughts on that?
I love it. I'm pretty confident that LinkedIn specifically will be one of the first ones that will give us such solutions, because their search space has always been one of the best ones on all social medias, and allowing us to search for someone that is relevant to us right now based on who we need. We've changed industries, and also a lot of the feed that is being shown to us, a lot of the highlights that are being shown to us, I still don't get the relevancy most times, because social media listens to us, but I'm having conversations, or maybe they're listening to, I'm at the movies and it's listening to the movie, not to me, or I'm potentially sitting in a restaurant and the phone is on the table, so it's listening to two other conversations around me. So I think there's a lot of, irrelevant information, and these days
Noise.
especially, there's a lot of noise, a lot. There's a lot of advertising as well that is like way too much these days, especially on with Meta. It's something is not okay with what they're doing. What I like that's going to come out is exactly a search engine like what you're saying, that would allow us to just prompt, hey, these are the people that I'd love to talk to in the next 3 days, and this is why. But I think that this is going to be on payment plans. Otherwise, everyone that's useful is going to be very much bombarded with too much information. So what will happen is that
step.
I will need to say to my social media, this is who I am open to contact me, and this is who I am not. And we'll end up having these different inboxes. And one inbox will be only show me who is relevant now. The other one will be show me who is important but not relevant. Family member is important but not relevant right now. I don't always want to talk to my mom and dad, just really. And another one could be show me someone who's very, very important, but it's like a jewel, like a billionaire. How often do you reach out to your billionaire friends? I question myself. I have a handful of billionaire friends, and I call them friends because I've sat with them enough times one on one. But I'm like, when do I sit with them? When do I send them something? When do I show them an opportunity? How do I know what is relevant to them right now? I don't want to waste their time. So that is going to be a big part of the next 2 years where networking and time awareness will come together, and AI will help us use that. We'll tell AI, hey, today I will give you 100 minutes to allow me to network with people outside of my immediate daily connections. Give me who you think is relevant. And AI can give you a little brief. And I already have the entire framework and schematic in my head because I've written them out with human beings. So right now, a lot of this stuff is being done manually for me. But because of the way my head is, I have the entire blueprint of what this next future AI needs to be like in order to help us just be better networkers. That's it, which is what most human beings have. Because if you look at the top 5 fears of human beings, all of them fall under the category of networking.
Wow.
Yeah. Public speaking publicly, fear of rejection. Yeah. Fear of being left behind,
Being left
fear
alone.
of death.
Yeah.
Fear of
Yeah.
death. That's networking.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I've never heard anybody put it into that context, but how important, just if you didn't hear that, rewind, replay, and take that in. Because a lot of people fear networking, but they don't understand it. Or they feel it's a waste of time or it doesn't work for them. There are 5 good reasons to get to know networking.
Yeah,
Wow.
even yesterday, I was speaking to one of my students, and she was asking me what I'm going to do this year for my birthday, and I was like, I don't know this year. I'm turning 47 young. I have nothing specific planned. She's like, what'd you do last year? And I was like, last year I went into the dark retreat, and I've been doing it every year. I've been finding time, and I did it for 5 days. Last year I did it for 3 days, and it's 3 days in a small room that's in a special retreat space, but it's complete pitch dark. You cannot see your hand. Your eyes do not get adjusted. You as a man, you need to go to the toilet, even to pee, sitting down because you will miss everything. You got to do, like, you're eating in the dark. They give you food through a dark box, and she was asking me, why did I do it? Was it not scary? And I was like, yeah, it's one of the levels of networking. We like light because it makes us feel connected. It's not easy if you're blind is something else. You need to go through that, and you need to learn what does it mean to feel connected, and you develop your other senses. But when the light goes off in someone's house, the first thing they do is they try to get to their phone and turn on the flashlight. That's a pretty serious fear that pretty much all human beings have, a fear of the dark, and they just don't acknowledge it. So, but to me, darkness is a mode of networking. It's a mode of turning off your phone for a day or for 7 days and having a full digital detox. What does that look like? Or blindfolding yourself in your own house, or putting, like, in some retreats, you go to Vipassana. You're not allowed to talk to any person, but you're also not allowed to have eye contact with any person. That's all levels of discipline that we learn that, again, for me, are all different spectrums of networking. Because whenever people tell me, oh, I don't like networking, or I don't like going to networking events because it's so tiring, it's like, you don't know how to go to the relevant one. Imagine you had an AI that can give you guidance on which is the best networking event to go to meet single people. Boom. Which is the best events to go to in your area, in your state, in your city, to meet potential mentors? And what are the best things to say to start conversations with them? Again, like, for me, dozens of people are coming up with these kind of apps, and all of them I really hope will do well. I'm looking to connect with one that's going to make me a shareholder of their company. I feel this is coming. I don't know if it's this year or next year, but I'm ready for them. especially with everything we're doing in with Human Garage right now, I connect networking to a lot of wellness and just longevity in general. People, yesterday I was at a Ken Honda event. I'm sure you've read Ken Honda's book Happy Money. Guy's written 150 books, and I built a very, very deep relationship with him over a couple of days. There's a couple of hundred people at the event, and but I was sitting in the front, and we had a beautiful table, and I set up a whole tea ceremony. And I know he's into tea, and I kept on serving people on my table only tea. And every once in a while, I would actually go on stage and bring him a tea, a cup with and he loved it. At the end of the event, he came to me, he gave me a birthday gift, picture, signed the book for me, picture. And he's like, "Oh, you gotta come to my room. I have a special tea from Japan that I want to give you before my flight." It's like next level kind of networking relationship. And at his event, I was sitting down with a few people that traveled quite far to see him. And for me, I wanted to connect very deeply with this concept of happy money, because to me, where do we get energy from? People see money as one form of energy. There's a lot of questions about what is money for us. But the conversation that developed in the mastermind dinner we had was like, where do we get our energy from outside of money? And everyone at the table said, we get it from the sun, from sleeping, we get it from food, and we get it from water. And I was like, no, number one place for energy is networking. Number one place that will either drain your energy or give you energy. And because of this knowledge, this is why AI is so important to us. Because even the corporations that are going to implement AI in their companies, they need AI to work in the HR department to help us build better relationships with each other so we can be relevant to each other. We could trust each other a lot more. We can find better teachers, better mentors, better lovers, better friends. I'm really looking for that one company that will create the ultimate AI to meet friends.
Sure, I love that summary, and just looking at the time as we kind of conclude, the intentionality needs to be clear, and that message that you just spoke about, whether networking is draining your energy or giving you energy. I just want to kind of put it out there to people that are networking. And I know a lot of people that have been networking for years, and they go to the same group for the last 10 years, the last 5 years. And when I speak to them on an individual basis, they still say, "Oh, well, I network, but I don't really get a lot out of it." And it's, be intentional about your network, about who you spend time with, and make sure that you find the right environment. Like Gil was saying earlier about, if you're looking for one thing and you're expecting it out of a network that doesn't deliver that, then you're doing yourself a disservice. You're wasting a lot of your time. You're draining your energy. So find a network that supports that energy, that makes you thrive. What happened there?
You still with me?
Weird. Sorry, my whole screen disappeared. It said something about an ad block, and I was like, "Did Gil flash an ad?" And now all of a sudden, it's just blocked my screen. Anyway, AI it shows you what can happen. But on the screen, Melissa has shared a link on how you can go and connect with Gil if any of these things resonate. I think from today's conversation, we'll probably have lots more, and I think we should, Gil, have a few more conversations around some of these topics that have kind of come up in this, and maybe get some people to come up on and do a bit of a, hey, come and show and tell. Show us some of your tech and see what other people think.
And super exciting. I'd love to do that. I want to try to do more of these lives on LinkedIn. I'd love to learn how to do that with a few different people, almost like panels and conversations. Like back in the days, it was Clubhouse. These days, I think LinkedIn is much more powerful. You could see who's around, who's watching, who's with us. Yeah, my team put my information out there, but I am the only Gil Petersson in the world, so it's easy to find me. And as Max said, it's not about just finding the network that is relevant to you right now, but it's also letting go of networks that are not relevant anymore. And that's a conversation for another time, ladies and gentlemen, because that's the hardest part of networking. The whole idea of FOMO, the fear of missing out, is not simple. It's a very, very deep trauma of networking or leaving a job or leaving a country, leaving a marriage, leaving any kind of relationship. That's a massive, discussion that as humanity we've not been taught about in school. I wish there was a class in school, not just to tell us how to make friends, but how to change friends. I'm constantly teaching my young kids how to make friends in their school, especially as new kids come in, why to be friends with the new kids, and how to change friends. If you have a friend that doesn't make you feel good, tell them. If they still don't make you feel good, change them. And as adults, we have not learned how to do that. We deal with the traumas, we hold on to it, we allow those things to kind of anchor in, and then it gets triggered in our next relationships. And in the last 2.5 years, because of personal circumstances in my life, I've had to learn the beauty of coming in and out of relationships, and what does it mean to create space and time away from people in order to create space and time for a new network to come in and to be nurtured. So, ladies and gentlemen, explore it. If you want to be in touch with me, send me a 1-minute voice message and tell me, who do you wish you can manifest in your life in the next 10 days and why? In a 1-minute voice message. If I get those from you, you'll hear my message back to you as well. Mac, I really appreciate you, brother. Send lots of love to the family. I'm waiting for you guys here in Bali one day soon. I can't see myself coming into Europe anytime soon. Europe is not going in the right direction right now. But, I'm staying here where it's nice and sunny.
My friend, well, thank you again. And I look forward to seeing what people have, what are your thoughts? What are your comments? What's your feedback? Drop it, even if you're watching the replay. We'll either ourselves or our teams will reach out and make sure that we respond. But I look forward to having a conversation around FOMO and networking. I think there's a whole chapter on that. But my friend, stay well. Love to your family. Enjoy the sunshine, and we will speak again soon. Thank you, everybody, for watching,
Thank you.
We'll speak soon.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Cheers.